The story begins in a bustling virtual reality gaming center where hundreds of players are immersed in cutting-edge technology. Among them is Reese, a girl who often visits with her friends. But on this particular day, she realizes just how dependent people have become on electricity and modern devices. She quietly wonders what life would look like if all of this suddenly disappeared. That evening, Reese returns home. Her father, Chris, is waiting for her, ready to share dinner together. Reese's mother passed away years ago, and Chris has raised her alone. As they eat, the lights start flickering, not just inside their house, but throughout the entire neighborhood. Suddenly, a massive surge hits, cutting off all power. Every device shuts down at once, plunging the city into darkness. At first, Chris believes it's just a routine outage that engineers will fix soon. But Reese notices something far more troubling. Their phones show no signal. This means the blackout wasn't just electrical. Every modern device has stopped working. No communication. No help. Still, Chris tries to stay positive, saying the break from digital life might be good. Reese pulls out her iPad, and together they browse old photos and videos from happier times with her mother. Eventually, they fall asleep on the couch. Late that night, Reese wakes to a strange noise coming from the storage shed behind their house. Curious, she goes out alone to investigate. Inside, she discovers an old radio crackling with static. Their shed was once a laboratory belonging to her grandfather, Frank, who used to experiment with sound waves and radio technology. Years ago, he moved deep into the woods to live alone, but many of his old devices remain stored here. Reese realizes the signal is coming from Frank himself. With phone networks down, he's contacting them using radio equipment from his cabin in the woods. Once connected, Frank reveals the horrifying truth. The blackout is not local. It has happened across the entire world at the exact same moment. Based on his research, this can only be an electromagnetic pulse event, a global shutdown that has permanently destroyed modern technology. He warns them that electricity may never return, and society will soon collapse. Frank urges Reese and Chris to immediately gather supplies, stock up on food and water, and leave the city at sunrise. If they reach his house in the woods, they can survive through farming and hunting. He tells Reese where to find the paper map and radio phone that will help guide them. Shaken, Reese tells her father everything the next morning. Chris tries to reassure her, insisting that Frank often exaggerates and has isolated himself for years. But when Reese reconnects the radio, Frank speaks to Chris directly, explaining that the situation is deadly serious. Without power or supply chains, cities will erupt in panic. Food will run out within days. Crowds will riot. And when society collapses, the most dangerous thing isn't nature, it's people. Hearing his father's warning, Chris realizes they can't take any chances. He joins Reese in quickly packing their car with anything that might keep them alive. Outside, chaos is already spreading. People demand answers from police officers, who themselves have no idea what caused the global failure. Meanwhile, Chris and Reese begin driving out of the city, stopping at a store to collect the remaining supplies Frank told them to bring. But inside the store, panic has already taken over. Crowds fight for food and water, shelves are emptied, and survival instincts replace reason. Chris finally understands that Frank was right all along. They rush back to the car and continue driving, only to find the roads out of town completely jammed. Bridges are flooded with vehicles as people attempt to escape. Their car stalls in the middle of a massive traffic jam caused by a wrecked bus blocking the road. Injured passengers lie on the pavement, but no one helps them. Everyone is desperate to save themselves. An angry driver eventually smashes through the blockage with his truck, and the crowd follows him. Chris and Reese, shocked by everyone's selfishness, keep driving. They finally understand that in times like these, people think only of their own survival. They drive the entire day, but as evening approaches, disaster strikes again. An out-of-control truck slams into their vehicle, sending them crashing into a tree. The impact knocks both of them unconscious. By morning, Reese wakes up, lucky to be only slightly injured. Chris, however, has suffered severe spinal damage. Barely able to move, he still urges Reese to help him walk, so they can reach Frank's cabin. They leave the highway and cut through the forest to avoid desperate people who might try to steal their supplies. Meanwhile, Frank grows increasingly worried. This is the end of the second day. They should have reached him by now. He realizes something must have gone wrong. Reese and Chris continue through the woods, but Chris's condition worsens with every step. When they stop to rest, Reese is horrified to see how serious his injuries are. Even so, Chris refuses to complain, focusing only on keeping his daughter safe and getting her to Frank's home. But eventually his body gives out. After walking all day with broken vertebrae, Chris finally collapses. Terrified, Reese breaks down crying and runs ahead, screaming for help. A short distance away, she sees a farm owned by a man named Glenn. She begs for help, and Glenn immediately rushes with his truck to bring Chris back to his farmhouse. They try to save him, but it's too late. The injuries and the long walk have caused a fatal infection. Chris does not survive the night. Reese is devastated. She already lost her mother, and now her father is gone too. The next morning, she buries Chris on Glenn's land. With no time to waste, Glenn loads Reese into his car and drives her toward her grandfather Frank's cabin in the woods. Meanwhile, Frank had been searching for Chris and Reese since the previous day. Eventually, he found Chris's crashed car on the roadside, with some of their belongings inside. Realizing they continued on foot, he followed the same direction and reached Farmer Glenn's land, where Reese had arrived earlier. But Glenn and Reese had already left, leaving the place empty. Frank noticed blood stains, a shovel, and Chris's clothes. It became clear that his son Chris had died and was buried there. What worried him most was that Reese was missing. After seeing a picture of Glenn on the wall, he set off to find them. Meanwhile, Glenn was driving with Reese when a man on the road asked for help. Before stopping, Glenn told Reese to hide because no one could be trusted anymore, and he was right. The man pretended to need help, dragged Glenn out, and shot him. He then stole the truck, unaware that Reese was hiding behind another vehicle, terrified and waiting for a chance to escape. Soon, the truck ran out of fuel, forcing the man to stop at a nearby repair shop to steal gas. But the shop owner spotted Reese, and a fight broke out. Taking advantage of the distraction, Reese slipped out and ran into the woods. But before she could get far, another man caught her. When Reese woke up, she found herself inside a house. An old woman stood in front of her and coldly declared she was never leaving. This place would be her home forever. Reese soon discovered that the woman's son, Kat, had kidnapped her. They had also imprisoned another teenage boy named Quinn, forcing him to work for them. Reese begged them to let her go, explaining that she only wanted to reach her grandfather, Frank. But the woman refused, saying there were no rules in the outside world anymore, so no one would come looking. She demanded Reese stay here and marry her son, Kat. If she refused, they would keep her locked away like Quinn. Reese pretended to think about it, planning only to escape. That night, she quietly tried to slip out, but the old woman woke up and sent Kat after her. After a long chase, Kat caught her. Instead of taking her home, he stuffed her into a bag and hung her from a tree as bait. In the morning, a bear approached to eat her, but Kat killed it, revealing he had used Reese as bait to hunt. Afterward, he dragged Reese back home and locked her inside a dark storage room. She remained trapped there for days. When they finally brought her out, the old woman again demanded she agree to marry Kat. Reese firmly refused, saying she would rather die in that dark room than live with him. Enraged, the woman threw her back inside. Reese knew they would never release her. She freed herself from the ropes, but found the door locked from the outside. Suddenly, she saw Quinn, who was also trapped in the house, doing chores. Reese begged him for help. At first, he was terrified. Kat had been beating him for weeks. But Reese convinced him that if they stayed, they'd remain slaves forever. Quinn finally agreed and quietly unlocked the door. Together, they escaped through the back. Quinn warned her that Kat knew the entire forest and would find their trail quickly. By morning, Kat discovered their escape and chased after them. Skilled in tracking, he closed the distance fast, while Reese and Quinn, exhausted and starving, struggled to run. They stopped briefly to eat berries, but Kat's footsteps echoed behind them, forcing them forward again. Quinn nearly fell into a deep trench, but Reese pulled him back. They crossed the ditch over a fallen tree, but Kat arrived and began shooting at them. Knowing they couldn't fight him in the forest, Reese pulled Quinn into a nearby lake and told him to hide underwater. The fog concealed them, and Kat ran past. Once he was gone, they took another route. But Kat doubled back and spotted them again. They hid, but when Kat finally found Reese and prepared to kill her, Quinn attacked him from behind. Kat's gun fell at Reese's feet. Kat quickly overpowered Quinn again, and Quinn signaled desperately for Reese to shoot to save them both. Shaking with fear, Reese grabbed the gun. She had never fired one before and had never imagined killing someone. But for Quinn's sake, she took a trembling breath, aimed, and pulled the trigger. The bullet hit Kat, killing him and saving Quinn's life. When Reese turned around, she saw her grandfather Frank standing there. He had been searching for her for weeks and had finally found her. She ran into his arms, overwhelmed after everything she had endured. Months passed. Frank brought both Reese and Quinn safely home. Since the blackout, the world outside had completely collapsed, but Frank had prepared well. Deep in the forest, their home was safe. They farmed, hunted, and lived peacefully together. Reese had endured unimaginable suffering, witnessed countless deaths, including her father's, and survived captivity. Quinn, who helped her escape, stayed with them and eventually fell in love with her. Together with Frank, they finally found safety, no matter what chaos existed beyond the forest. The story ends with this hopeful new beginning. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.